In the aftermath of the 75th Hunger Games, the war against the Capitol is far from over, and Katniss Everdeen is grappling with the consequences of her newfound role as the symbol of the rebellion. Having survived the Games, she finds herself in District 13, a place once thought to have been destroyed by the Capitol after the failed rebellion decades ago. Now, District 13 is the heart of the resistance, and Katniss, who had once simply fought to survive, is thrust into the position of leader and symbol of hope for the oppressed districts. But the cost of survival has been heavy. Katniss, scarred by her experiences in the Games and the emotional toll of being used as a pawn in the Capitol's narrative, is now forced to carry the weight of the rebellion. She is expected to lead, but her own identity is in turmoil. She's a broken girl from District 12, not a revolutionary hero, and the emotional scars of the Games have not healed. District 13, hidden underground and technologically advanced, has been preparing for the final war with the Capitol for years. While the Capitol celebrated its dominance over the districts with the Hunger Games, District 13 remained silent, building its forces in secret. But Katniss is not ready for the role she is being pushed into. She has become the symbol of the Mockingjay, the symbol of resistance, but in her heart, she still sees herself as the girl from District 12 who just wanted to protect her family. Her experiences have changed her, but the trauma of the Games is still fresh, and now she's expected to embrace her position as the face of the revolution. The Capitol's manipulation has made her an unwilling symbol of hope, and Katniss feels disconnected from the very idea of what the revolution stands for. She is caught in a constant struggle to reconcile the symbol of resistance that the districts want her to be with the broken, emotional young woman she has become. The person who emerged victorious from the Hunger Games is no longer the same. The toll of survival has left her emotionally exhausted and mentally weary. As Katniss trains to become the Mockingjay, she feels an intense sense of disconnect. She has no desire to be a public figure, to wear the elaborate costumes, to smile for the cameras. Yet the rebellion's leaders, including President Coin, know that Katniss's image is more powerful than any weapon. The Mockingjay has become an emblem of defiance, and her every movement is now a part of a carefully orchestrated plan to overthrow the Capitol. But Katniss, ever reluctant, cannot see herself as the person they want her to be. She struggles with this expectation, and the emotional toll it takes on her becomes clearer with each passing day. The very act of becoming the Mockingjay feels like a betrayal to the girl she used to be, and she cannot shake the feeling that the revolution is something she is being forced into, rather than something she's chosen. One of the hardest parts of this is her relationship with Peeta. When Katniss returned to District 12, she thought she could finally find peace with her family. But her victory was never going to allow her that peace. The Capitol's power reaches far beyond the Games, and Peeta, who was captured and tortured by the Capitol, becomes a symbol of the Capitol's cruel manipulation. Peeta, who was once her partner in the Games, her ally, and someone she truly cared about, has been brainwashed. His memories have been altered, and he no longer sees Katniss as an ally. He has been turned into a weapon against her, and the emotional weight of that is unbearable. Katniss's love for him was never simple, but their bond was real, forged through shared trauma and struggle. But now, she is unsure of how to feel. The Peeta she knew is gone, replaced by a tortured, broken version of the boy she once loved. Peeta's transformation becomes a painful reminder of the Capitol's power over them, and the toll it takes on Katniss is immense. She is left to question whether the love she felt for him was ever real, or if it was merely part of the Capitol's larger narrative, designed to manipulate her into becoming the Mockingjay. As Katniss continues to struggle with her identity, she is pulled into the very heart of the revolution. The rebellion is not just about overthrowing the Capitol, it is about reshaping the future of Panem. But Katniss is reluctant to embrace this new role. She is a survivor, not a leader. Her experiences in the games have left her scarred and emotionally distant. And yet, her status as the Mockingjay makes her the rallying point for the districts. The war is escalating, and the Capitol's retaliation is becoming more brutal. Districts that once were allies now turn against each other as the political landscape shifts. The fight is no longer just for survival, it's for the freedom and future of the people of Panem. Katniss is forced to confront the reality that her survival was never just about herself, it was about something much larger than her own life. She has become the face of the revolution, the symbol of defiance, and it is a role she cannot escape. As the war intensifies, Katniss is sent on dangerous missions to the Capitol. Her presence in the Capitol, once a place of power and wealth, is now a dangerous mission to bring down the very leaders who have controlled Panem for so long. The journey into the Capitol forces Katniss to confront the true extent of the Capitol's cruelty. The Capitol may have been toppled, but its remnants still linger. Katniss has seen the violence and destruction that the Capitol has caused, but in the Capitol itself, she witnesses firsthand the devastation that the war has wrought. The Capitol is no longer a place of power, it is a broken, fallen city filled with destruction and death. The citizens of the Capitol, who once lived in luxury while the district starved, are now facing the consequences of their complicity. Katniss begins to realize that the rebellion, while necessary, is not without its own costs. The war has brought with it a toll that is not just physical, but emotional and psychological. The once glamorous Capitol now lies in ruins, a testament to the destruction that both the Capitol and the rebellion have caused. As Katniss moves forward in the rebellion, she is no longer just a symbol of hope, she is a player in a much larger game. The stakes are higher than ever before, and the toll the war has taken on her, on Peeta, and on the people of Panem is staggering. Katniss's internal struggle deepens as she faces the emotional and psychological consequences of being both the face of resistance and a survivor of the Hunger Games. She is forced to reckon with the reality that her victory in the games did not free her, it only put her in the crosshairs of the Capitol's power. Now, the question is not just whether she can survive, it's whether she can rebuild Panem and help create a future that is free of the Capitol's oppression. As Katniss grapples with the crushing expectations of her role as the Mockingjay, the symbolic leader of the rebellion, the personal and emotional toll of the war becomes ever more evident. Katniss, who was once thrust into the Hunger Games as a reluctant competitor, now faces a war that stretches far beyond mere survival. The cost of freedom is becoming more apparent with each passing day. The rebellion that once seemed like a distant dream is now a brutal, all-consuming reality, and Katniss is torn between being a symbol of hope and understanding the true consequences of war. The psychological weight of her role continues to be overwhelming. Katniss finds herself performing for the Capitol's cameras, whether she's delivering speeches or participating in strategic war efforts, but behind the public facade, she is struggling to come to terms with the immense responsibility she now bears. While the people of Panem look to her for strength and guidance, Katniss feels lost. She knows that her every action has the potential to fuel the revolution, but she is uncertain of the cost that victory will bring. She's been manipulated into becoming the face of the rebellion, but her heart remains conflicted. Every victory she claims feels tainted by the lives lost in the war, by the people who have been sacrificed in the name of freedom. As the rebellion moves forward, Katniss is faced with the harsh reality that her own personal losses may be the cost of winning the war. Her heartache grows as the people she loves, including her family and Peeta, are pulled deeper into the conflict. Katniss's relationship with Peeta is in a state of turmoil. Though he has been rescued from the Capitol's grasp, his mind has been warped by the Capitol's brainwashing tactics, leaving him a shadow of the person he once was. The man who once shared a quiet, supportive love with her is now distant, angry, and distrustful. The trauma Peeta has suffered makes it almost impossible for him to relate to Katniss, and the once strong bond they shared is now strained. Their relationship is no longer a source of solace for Katniss, but rather a reminder of how deeply the Capitol's cruelty has scarred them both. Despite the emotional chasm between them, Katniss continues to protect Peeta, even as he grows more and more distant. Peeta's inability to recall their shared memories, the moments that once defined their bond, leaves Katniss questioning her own identity. The love she once felt for him is still there, but it feels increasingly elusive. She is forced to confront the idea that even love can be manipulated, that the Capitol has not only used them in the games, but also in their emotions. The Capitol has torn them apart, and while Katniss wants to believe in the possibility of healing, the road to reconciliation feels impossible. Their relationship becomes a reflection of the broader theme of the book, the deep emotional toll of war and its ability to destroy what once seemed simple and pure. Katniss's internal conflict grows deeper as the war escalates. She is no longer just fighting for survival in the arena, she is part of a revolution, fighting to create a new world. But the path to revolution is fraught with difficulties. The war is a brutal, unrelenting force, and the more she fights, the more she sees the cost of rebellion. As Katniss moves through the stages of war, she is forced to make decisions that challenge her morality. The emotional toll of these choices weighs on her, and the line between right and wrong becomes increasingly blurred. Katniss's desire to end the Capitol's tyranny and to bring peace to Panem is unwavering, but she begins to question whether the violence and bloodshed are worth the ultimate goal. Throughout the war, Katniss finds herself in increasingly dangerous situations. The Capitol is no longer just a symbol of oppression, it is a powerful, dangerous entity that will stop at nothing to protect its power. Katniss, along with her allies, is sent on a series of covert missions to weaken the Capitol's hold. Each mission brings new obstacles, new dangers, and more uncertainty about the future. Katniss's journey through these missions is a testament to her determination to survive and to end the Capitol's reign. But each mission is also a reminder of the pain and loss she has experienced along the way. The war has consumed Katniss in ways that are both physical and emotional, and she realizes that even victory will come with deep scars. One of the most significant moments of this part of the story occurs when Katniss faces the reality of war's toll on the civilians of Panem. The Capitol, desperate to maintain control, escalates its tactics, turning entire districts into battlegrounds. As the rebellion moves closer to its final assault on the Capitol, Katniss witnesses the destruction of her homeland, District 12. The Capitol bombs the district, killing countless innocent people, and the loss is devastating. Katniss, who had already lost so much in the games, now faces the destruction of everything she once held dear. The people of District 12, who were once the heart of her world, are now casualties of war. The grief and rage she feels in the aftermath of District 12's destruction are overwhelming. Her home, her people, and her sense of security are gone, and Katniss is left to pick up the pieces. The loss is personal, and it fuels her determination to bring down the capital. As the rebellion intensifies, Katniss is forced to reckon with the collateral damage of war. She is no longer just a participant in the games. She is a player in a much larger and more complex struggle. She is forced to confront the question of how far she is willing to go for victory. Can she justify the deaths of so many innocent people for the sake of freedom? The cost of rebellion is clear, and Katniss understands that there is no easy victory in war. The capital has always been the enemy, but now the war has blurred the lines. The people fighting for the rebellion, including Katniss, are no different from the capital in many ways. They are all willing to sacrifice lives to achieve their goals. The true price of freedom is no longer just survival. It is the toll on the soul, on humanity, and on the future of Panem. As the revolution advances toward its final showdown with the capital, Katniss Everdeen's role as the Mockingjay, the symbol of rebellion, grows ever more critical. Her personal battle, however, is far more complex than simply fighting for a new world. She must confront the overwhelming toll that war is taking on her loved ones, and on the very fabric of Panem. Katniss has been thrust into a war that she never asked for, one that has forced her to make impossible decisions and to live with the consequences of those choices. In the midst of the chaos, she is left questioning what victory truly means, and whether the price of freedom is too high. Katniss's emotional journey continues to be shaped by the devastation of her home, District 12, which has been bombed by the capital as part of their retaliation. The loss of her district, her home, and the people she once knew is both a personal and symbolic blow. It represents everything the capital has taken from her, and everything she is fighting for. The grief she feels is immense, but it also fuels her desire for justice. As she witnesses the destruction and the suffering, Katniss is reminded that the capital's cruelty has no bounds, and that the people of Panem, including herself, have been trapped in a system of oppression for far too long. The people of District 12 were not just victims, they were symbols of the capital's dominance. And now, they have become martyrs for the cause. Katniss's hatred for the capital grows with each passing day, as does her determination to see it fall. But with every step she takes in the rebellion, Katniss is confronted with the cost of war. While she fights for freedom, for a future where the capital no longer has power, she is also forced to witness the destruction and pain that this freedom is costing. The revolution is not clean, it is brutal, and it leaves behind a trail of suffering. Katniss finds herself questioning whether the victory she is fighting for is worth the bloodshed. She understands that the capital must be overthrown, but at what cost? Is it worth sacrificing so many lives, so much innocence, just to bring about change? The weight of these questions weighs heavily on her, and she struggles to reconcile her desire for justice with the reality of the violence around her. Amidst the brutality of the war, Katniss's relationships with those she loves are tested to the breaking point. Her bond with Peeta, once forged in the Hunger Games, is strained beyond repair after his captivity and brainwashing by the capital. Peeta's memories of their time together have been manipulated, and he no longer trusts Katniss. He sees her as the enemy, and the man she once loved is now a stranger. For Katniss, the emotional toll of Peeta's transformation is almost unbearable. She knows that Peeta is not to blame for what has happened to him, but the pain of seeing him broken by the Capitol's cruelty is a constant reminder of the Capitol's power to destroy even the strongest bonds. Their relationship, once a source of hope, has become a painful reminder of the cost of war. Despite the emotional distance between them, Katniss continues to fight for Peeta's freedom, knowing that he is still trapped by the Capitol's manipulation. Peeta's capture, torture, and brainwashing are the ultimate acts of cruelty by the Capitol. Katniss understands that the Capitol has tried to break him, just as they have tried to break her. But even in the face of this betrayal, Katniss refuses to give up on him. She continues to hold on to the belief that Peeta can be saved, that the love they once shared is not entirely lost. However, the emotional toll of Peeta's transformation is undeniable, and Katniss is left to grapple with her feelings of guilt, sadness, and helplessness. She knows that, in order to survive, she must let go of the idealized version of their relationship and accept the reality of their situation. As the rebellion moves closer to its final assault on the Capitol, Katniss's role becomes more than just symbolic. She is no longer just the Mockingjay, the figurehead of the revolution. She is a soldier, a leader, and a strategist. The rebellion has drawn Katniss into the heart of the battle, and her decisions will have far-reaching consequences. She is forced to make difficult choices that will determine the fate of the districts, the future of Panem, and the lives of those she holds dear. In the midst of the war, Katniss is tasked with leading a group of rebels on a mission to infiltrate the Capitol. The stakes could not be higher. Failure means death, and success means bringing an end to the Capitol's reign of terror. The Capitol's defenses are formidable, and as Katniss and her team fight their way through the city, they are confronted by new dangers at every turn. The Capitol is not just a city of power, it is a fortress, one that has been fortified against the very rebellion it has fought so hard to suppress. As they move through the Capitol's streets, Katniss and her comrades are forced to confront the grim reality of war. The Capitol, once a symbol of luxury and wealth, is now a city of destruction and death. The people who once lived in privilege are now facing the consequences of their complicity in the Capitol's oppression. The rebellion is not just about overthrowing a tyrannical leader, it is about reshaping the very foundations of Panem, breaking the cycle of violence and oppression that has lasted for generations. Katniss's journey through the Capitol is both a physical and emotional struggle. As she moves closer to President Snow, the leader of the Capitol, she is forced to confront the personal toll of the war. The people she has lost, the sacrifices she has made, and the friendships that have been forged in the fires of the rebellion all weigh heavily on her. The rebellion has taken a toll on Katniss's soul, and she finds herself questioning whether she has the strength to continue. But despite the doubts that plague her, Katniss remains determined. She knows that the war must be won, and that the Capitol must be brought to its knees. The cost of freedom may be steep, but it is a cost she is willing to pay. The emotional and physical toll of the war culminates in the final assault on the Capitol. Katniss and her team face their greatest challenge yet, defeating the Capitol once and for all. The battle is fierce, and Katniss is forced to make decisions that will shape the future of Panem. The Capitol's defenses are designed to destroy, and every step Katniss takes is fraught with danger. The final moments of the battle are marked by sacrifice, loss, and the realization that victory, while sweet, comes at an incredible cost. Katniss must confront the true price of the rebellion and come to terms with the fact that the world she once knew is gone forever. As Katniss moves closer to the capital, the toll of the revolution becomes undeniable. The closer the rebellion gets to victory, the more devastating the consequences become. Every step Katniss takes is fraught with loss, and the emotional and psychological toll of the war weighs heavily on her. She is no longer simply the Mockingjay, the symbol of hope for the districts. She is a soldier, and in this final stage of the rebellion, every decision she makes has the potential to shape the future of Panem. But as the capital falls, the true cost of the revolution becomes evident. Katniss's journey is no longer just about survival, it's about sacrifice, betrayal, and the true meaning of justice. One of the most defining aspects of this part of the story is Katniss's growing awareness that war is not just about defeating an enemy, it's about rebuilding a nation, and the emotional burden of that task is overwhelming. Katniss is still haunted by the violence and loss she's witnessed throughout the war. The people she loves, including her family and friends, have been irrevocably changed by the brutality of the capital's regime. Katniss begins to realize that, no matter the outcome of the rebellion, the scars of the war will never fully heal. The capital's control has been all-encompassing, and while its fall may mark the end of oppression, it will not undo the devastation it has caused. Katniss is forced to confront the truth. The cost of freedom is not just measured in lives lost, it's measured in the loss of innocence, the shattering of relationships, and the irreversible changes to her own identity. As the rebellion's forces press forward, Katniss faces the harsh reality of betrayal. The capital, desperate to retain power, manipulates its remaining allies, using fear and coercion to force them into submission. The alliances that Katniss has formed throughout the rebellion are tested, and she begins to see how easily trust can be shattered in times of war. One of the most devastating betrayals comes from those she had once considered allies, those within the rebellion who, like her, have been fighting for freedom. But the war has shown Katniss that the lines between right and wrong are not always clear, and sometimes the very people who claim to be on her side are willing to sacrifice others for their own gain. In a world where survival is the ultimate goal, the idea of loyalty becomes increasingly fragile, and Katniss is forced to question who she can trust in this fight for freedom. The cost of betrayal becomes painfully clear when Katniss is faced with the harshest choice yet: whether to sacrifice her own morals in order to achieve the ultimate goal. As the rebellion nears the capital, the war escalates in ways Katniss could never have imagined. The final mission, which is meant to bring down President Snow and end the capital's reign, quickly turns into a moral nightmare. Katniss is given the chance to take down the capital's leaders, but at a tremendous cost. She must decide whether to fight for the greater good or to remain true to her principles. The war has already forced her to make impossible choices, but now she must confront the possibility that in order to win, she may have to lose her soul. This part of the story also delves deeper into Katniss's feelings of guilt and responsibility. Throughout the revolution, she has been a symbol, a weapon, a tool to unite the districts and fight the capital. But as the rebellion reaches its final stages, Katniss begins to realize that she has been manipulated as much by the rebellion as she was by the capital. The role she has played in the revolution has been carefully crafted, and while her image has inspired millions, Katniss is left to wonder if she has truly had control over her own destiny. She is constantly reminded that her actions, both in the games and in the rebellion, have always been shaped by the will of others, by the Capitol's agenda, and now by the rebellion's strategy. Katniss feels like a puppet, with her strings pulled by those around her, and she wonders if her own identity has been lost in the process. Despite these feelings of disillusionment, Katniss continues to fight, driven by the desire for justice. She understands that the revolution cannot be about individual survival, it has to be about something greater. The Capitol may be the symbol of tyranny, but Katniss knows that the rebellion must also be about creating a world where people no longer have to live in fear. This realization pushes her to continue despite the emotional and physical cost of the war. Katniss is no longer just the Mockingjay, she is a leader, someone who must make decisions that will change the course of history. But with that leadership comes the responsibility of understanding the weight of each decision and the toll that it will take on her and those she loves. The rebellion's ultimate goal, the fall of the Capitol, is achieved, but at a cost that Katniss is not prepared for. The people she has fought alongside, the friends and comrades she has trusted, are casualties of war. Some are dead, some are broken, and some are forever changed by the violence of the conflict. The emotional and physical toll is staggering. Even as Katniss stands victorious, she is forced to confront the bitter truth that victory does not mean the end of suffering. The Capitol may have fallen, but the damage it caused will take generations to undo. The rebellion has won, but Katniss is left to wonder if the cost of that victory was too great. In the final moments of the story, Katniss is forced to come to terms with her role in the revolution. She has fought, survived, and led the rebellion, but the war has left her with deep scars, both physical and emotional. Katniss knows that she will never be the same person she once was. She has been shaped by the violence, the loss, and the betrayal, and now she must figure out what kind of world she will help to rebuild. The future of Panem is uncertain, but Katniss understands that the hardest part is not winning the war, it is rebuilding the world after the war is over. She must learn to live in a world that has been broken, to find peace after the chaos, and to understand that true healing requires more than just victory, it requires reconciliation, understanding, and the courage to face the future, no matter how painful it may be. As the Capitol falls and the war approaches its climax, Katniss Everdeen faces the undeniable truth that the cost of freedom is far greater than she ever imagined. The revolution that she became the face of has brought immense destruction, but it has also brought the possibility of change. However, the victory comes with deep scars, both within Katniss herself and throughout the districts. In this final stage of the war, Katniss's journey is no longer about the Capitol or the rebellion. It is about rebuilding, facing her own soul, and grappling with the moral consequences of her actions. The world she fought for has arrived, but the personal toll on her is profound. Her journey now takes on the shape of healing, understanding the implications of the choices she made, and discovering what freedom truly means in a world that has been destroyed and remade. Katniss is no longer just a symbol of rebellion, she is a survivor, a person who must live with the consequences of everything she has done. Throughout the revolution, she has been thrust into situations where she had to make decisions that were not just about her own survival, but about the survival of the districts, the future of Panem, and the possibility of a better world. These decisions, though necessary for the rebellion, have left their mark. Katniss, as strong and resilient as she has proven to be, is not immune to the trauma of war. The emotional scars from her time in the games, the betrayal, the losses, and the atrocities committed during the revolution weigh heavily on her. It is no longer just about the capital, it is about finding a way to heal, to move forward from the wreckage, and to understand what it means to truly live in a world that has been irrevocably changed. The most significant aspect of Katniss's emotional journey at this point is her ability to come to terms with her feelings about the war and her role in it. As the rebellion nears its end, Katniss is faced with a decision that will define the future of Panem. The rebellion has succeeded, but the question of how to handle the transition from oppression to freedom remains. How will the new world be shaped? Who will lead it? Katniss, once reluctant to take on the role of a leader, must now come to terms with the fact that the future of Panem rests in the hands of the people who survived the revolution, and she is one of those people. The weight of leadership is not something Katniss ever wanted, but it is something she cannot escape. She has been forced into this role, and now she must face the consequences of her choices. One of the hardest decisions Katniss faces is what to do with President Snow. Throughout the revolution, Snow has been the embodiment of the capital's cruelty. He has orchestrated the deaths of countless innocents, manipulated the lives of the tributes in the Hunger Games, and used the people of Panem as pawns in his brutal game of power. Now, with the rebellion on the verge of victory, Katniss must decide what justice looks like in this new world. The rebels are calling for the execution of President Snow, but Katniss is unsure. She knows that Snow's actions have been unforgivable, but as she stands at the threshold of the capital's collapse, she begins to question whether revenge will truly bring peace. The capital has bred a system of hatred and violence, and while Katniss is desperate to see it fall, she does not want to perpetuate the cycle of bloodshed. The decision is not easy, and Katniss must weigh the cost of vengeance against the possibility of creating a new world, one where the cycle of violence is finally broken. The struggle to make this decision becomes even more complicated when Katniss is faced with the realization that her role as the Mockingjay has been manipulated by those she trusted. She has been used as a propaganda tool for the rebellion, just as she was used by the capital. While Katniss has been fighting for freedom, she begins to understand that she has not always been in control of her own actions. Her every move has been orchestrated by the rebellion's leaders, and she must come to terms with the fact that the revolution she fought for may not have been as pure as she believed. The rebellion, like the capital, has its own agenda, and Katniss's feelings of betrayal deepen as she begins to see how much she has been used. This revelation shakes her faith in the rebellion and the people who have manipulated her for their own ends. In the final moments of the revolution, Katniss must face the emotional and psychological consequences of her role in the war. The battle against the capital is coming to an end, and Katniss is confronted with the reality that there is no easy victory. The people she has lost, the destruction she has witnessed, and the choices she has made can never be undone. The road to peace is long, and Katniss understands that the war has only just begun for the people of Panem and for herself. The capital may have been defeated, but the emotional damage left in its wake is staggering. Katniss must learn how to heal, how to find peace in a world that has been torn apart by violence, and how to rebuild the future with the heavy weight of her actions and choices hanging over her. Amidst the final moments of the revolution, Katniss finds a glimmer of hope. Her understanding of what freedom truly means begins to take shape. It is not just about overthrowing a tyrannical government, it is about healing, rebuilding, and creating a society that values life, justice, and equality. Katniss, though broken by the war, begins to realize that her role in the revolution is not defined by the violence she has witnessed, but by the possibility of a better future. She is no longer just the Mockingjay, she is a survivor, a woman who has endured the worst of what the capital and the rebellion had to offer, and has emerged from it with the strength to help shape the future. While the scars of war will always remain, Katniss finally sees the possibility of a future where the cycle of violence can end, and where people can live without fear of oppression. As Katniss begins to reconcile with her past and the choices she has made, she also starts to heal her relationship with Peeta. The emotional distance between them is still palpable, but there is a tentative hope that they can rebuild their bond. Peeta, who has struggled with his own trauma, begins to find his way back to the person he once was. Katniss, too, begins to understand that healing is a slow process, and that they must both learn to move forward from the pain of their past. The future of their relationship is uncertain, but the fact that they are both still standing, still fighting, is a testament to their resilience. In the end, Katniss's journey is not just about the overthrow of the capital, it is about the personal journey of healing, of reconciling with the past, and of learning to live in a world that has been irrevocably changed. The war may be over, but the road to peace is just beginning, and Katniss knows that she has a role to play in rebuilding the world. The Mockingjay has fallen, and the future of Panem is now in the hands of those who survived. With the capital's fall, the revolution has achieved its goal, but the victory feels hollow. The emotional scars of the war, the loss of loved ones, and the destruction of districts still weigh heavily on Katniss Everdeen. She has been through hell and back, from the Hunger Games to becoming the face of a rebellion, and now, as the capital lies in ruins, she is left to face a new challenge: the struggle to heal, rebuild, and make sense of a world that has been forever changed. Katniss's journey is far from over. She must now figure out what it means to live in a world without the constant shadow of the capital. But peace, Katniss learns, is not a simple thing, it is fragile, and its true meaning can only be realized through the painful process of healing and reconciliation. In the aftermath of the revolution, Panem stands on the brink of a new era, but the scars of the past remain. The districts have been devastated by the capital's cruelty, and the rebellion has left a trail of destruction. The people of Panem, especially Katniss, must come to terms with the fact that victory, while hard-won, has come at an unspeakable price. Katniss's journey through the war, her leadership in the rebellion, and the lives she has lost all point to a deeper truth. The fight for freedom is never clean, never without cost. In the aftermath, it is clear that the people of Panem, those who survived, must find a way to rebuild their society, to move past the cycle of violence and hatred that the capital perpetuated, and to forge a new path. Katniss's healing process begins slowly, as she grapples with the emotional wreckage of the war. Though the rebellion has succeeded, she is not free of the trauma that it has caused. In District 12, her home, the destruction and loss are felt on a deeply personal level. The capital's assault on the districts, particularly District 12, has left Katniss with an overwhelming sense of loss. Her home, her family's former lives, and the people she once knew are all gone. Her personal connection to District 12 is shattered, and while the rebellion succeeded in toppling the capital, the cost of that victory continues to haunt her. She returns to her roots in District 12, and as she tries to rebuild her life, she faces the challenge of redefining herself outside of the roles that have been imposed upon her. For Katniss, healing is not just a matter of physical recovery. Her relationship with Peeta, which has been fractured by his brainwashing and the trauma of the games, is a central focus of her emotional journey. Though the rebellion has liberated Peeta from the capital's control, he is not the same person Katniss once knew. His mind, altered by torture, has left him broken and distant. He no longer remembers their shared moments of love and support, and the person he was seems to have vanished. Peeta's struggle to regain his memories and his sense of self is heartbreaking for Katniss, who has always seen him as her anchor. But even though Peeta is physically free, his emotional scars are deep, and Katniss is forced to confront the reality that their relationship may never be what it once was. Despite their mutual struggles, Katniss and Peeta begin to slowly rebuild their relationship. There is no clear resolution or perfect reconciliation between them, but over time, Katniss realizes that healing will not be instantaneous, it will take time, and it will require both of them to accept the painful realities of their experiences. The road to recovery is difficult, and there are moments when Katniss questions whether the love they once shared can survive. But, in the end, Katniss understands that their bond was forged in shared suffering, and although it may never be the same, it is still worth fighting for. They both have their own demons to face, but together, they start to rebuild the fragile connection they have left. As Katniss moves forward in her recovery, she is faced with the broader task of rebuilding Panem. The war has shattered the nation, and the process of creating a just and equal society will be long and difficult. President Coin, the leader of District 13 and a key figure in the rebellion, has emerged as a central player in the new government. However, Katniss begins to see the flaws in Coin's leadership. Though she initially sees Coin as a figure of authority who will help usher in a new era, she soon discovers that Coin, like the Capitol before her, is not immune to the corrupting influences of power. Coin's desire for revenge against the Capitol mirrors the cycle of violence that has defined Panem for years, and Katniss realizes that true peace cannot be achieved through the same methods that have perpetuated the oppression in the first place. Katniss's sense of justice leads her to question Coin's actions and decisions, and she becomes increasingly disillusioned with her leadership. As she grapples with this realization, Katniss understands that true change cannot come from simply replacing one tyrant with another. It must come from healing, forgiveness, and the willingness to break free from the cycle of retribution. In the final stages of the story, Katniss makes a difficult choice that will alter the course of Panem's future. She is faced with a moral dilemma that forces her to confront the realities of leadership, sacrifice, and justice. Katniss's decision to take a stand against Coin, who she believes represents the continuation of the cycle of violence, is a pivotal moment. In this act of defiance, Katniss chooses to protect the future of Panem not through revenge, but through a commitment to peace. Her decision reflects her growth as a leader and as a person. She understands that peace cannot be achieved through violence or vengeance. It must come from a place of understanding, empathy, and a willingness to rebuild what has been broken. Katniss's final actions symbolize her transformation from the girl who volunteered to take her sister's place in the Hunger Games to the woman who chooses to shape the future of Panem with a sense of justice and compassion. Though she has been scarred by the war, Katniss realizes that she has the power to make a difference. The future of Panem may be uncertain, but Katniss understands that true healing requires not only the defeat of the Capitol, but the ability to create a new society that values life, liberty, and equality. As Katniss continues to grapple with the aftermath of the war, the weight of her decisions begins to settle. The Capitol has fallen, and the rebellion has succeeded, but the nation of Panem remains broken. The districts, while free from the oppressive rule of President Snow, are now left to rebuild from the ashes of a war that has cost so many lives. The emotional, physical, and social scars of the revolution are evident in every corner of Panem, and Katniss is left to confront the ultimate challenge. How do you rebuild a world after it has been shattered by violence, betrayal, and loss? How do you find peace after so much destruction? The first challenge Katniss faces is reconciling with herself. The girl who once volunteered to take her sister Prim's place in the Hunger Games is no longer the same. She has lived through unimaginable horrors, from the games to the rebellion, and now she must face the reality of what it all means. Katniss understands that survival alone is not enough. It's not enough to simply exist after the war. She must find a way to live meaningfully. But the emotional toll of everything she has been through makes this a difficult task. She is haunted by the memories of those lost in the war, including her own family and friends, and is burdened by the actions she took during the rebellion. There are moments when Katniss questions her role in the revolution, wondering whether the sacrifices she made were worth it. She still struggles with the guilt of knowing that her actions, her symbol as the Mockingjay, were used to manipulate an entire nation. But slowly, Katniss begins to understand that healing is not about forgetting the past, it's about accepting it and learning to move forward with it. Katniss's emotional recovery is deeply tied to her relationships, particularly with Peeta. While their bond was forged in the fires of the Hunger Games, their relationship has been through more trials than most people will ever face. Peeta's mind, warped by the Capitol's brainwashing, has left him emotionally scarred, and Katniss is still reeling from the emotional distance between them. Though they have both been through the same war, their experiences have shaped them in different ways. Peeta, who has always been the compassionate, hopeful one, struggles to remember the love they shared, while Katniss, the reluctant leader, grapples with the emotional weight of the choices she has made. The relationship between them is still fragile, but as time passes, Katniss comes to realize that healing will take time, and it will not be easy. In the end, Katniss and Peeta learn to lean on each other again, not as a symbol of rebellion, but as two survivors of a broken world who are learning to navigate a new future together. One of the most poignant moments in this part of Katniss's journey is her confrontation with the choices she made during the rebellion. She has become a symbol of hope for the districts, the Mockingjay, but she is still haunted by the fact that her actions were often dictated by those around her. She was used as a pawn, both by the Capitol and by the leaders of the rebellion. While her image helped unite the districts, Katniss often felt disconnected from the role she was expected to play. In her mind, she was a survivor first, and a symbol second. She never wanted to lead a rebellion, she only wanted to protect her family and survive the games. But now, with the Capitol's fall, Katniss has to reckon with the fact that she has become a part of something much larger than herself. The burden of leadership, of being the face of change, weighs on her, and she begins to realize that leadership is not just about victory, it's about responsibility. As Katniss works through her emotional recovery, she begins to understand that true healing requires forgiveness, both of others and of herself. She must learn to forgive herself for the things she did during the rebellion, even if they were done in the name of freedom. She must also learn to forgive those who used her for their own purposes. President Coin, the leader of District 13 and one of the key figures in the rebellion, had manipulated Katniss to serve her own vision for the new world. Coin's actions, though aimed at ending the Capitol's reign, were driven by a desire for power, and Katniss must confront the uncomfortable truth that even the leaders of the rebellion were not without their own flaws. In the aftermath of the revolution, Katniss faces the question of what kind of world she wants to help build. While the capital's reign is over, the question of who will lead and how they will govern remains. The districts are free, but they are not yet unified. Panem's future is uncertain, and Katniss realizes that the real work has only just begun. She understands that true freedom is not just about overthrowing a tyrant, it's about creating a society where justice, equality, and peace can thrive. This realization is both empowering and daunting for Katniss. She is no longer just a symbol, she is a person with the power to shape the future. But the question of how to do that is unclear. What kind of leader does she want to be? And what kind of society does she want to help create? The process of rebuilding Panem is slow and painful. The districts must recover from the destruction that the capital inflicted, and the wounds of war cannot be healed overnight. The rebellion's leaders work together to create a new government, but Katniss knows that true change requires more than just new laws, it requires a shift in the way people think and live. The rebellion was not just about ending the capital's reign, it was about creating a society where the people of Panem could live without fear, where they could have the freedom to choose their own future. But that future is still uncertain, and the road to peace is long. Katniss's journey in this part of Mockingjay is one of self-reflection, healing, and responsibility. As she learns to forgive herself and others, she begins to understand that true peace is not about erasing the past, it's about learning from it. She begins to see that the future of Panem is not just in the hands of its leaders, but in the hands of the people who have survived the war. The rebuilding of Panem will not be easy, but Katniss understands that it is possible. The revolution was not just about overthrowing the capital, it was about building a new future, one where the people of Panem can live free from tyranny. And in that process, Katniss begins to find her place in this new world. As Katniss and the rebellion near their final confrontation with the capital, the weight of their decisions begins to settle in. The rebellion has been progressing relentlessly, but every step closer to victory seems to increase the stakes for everyone involved. Katniss, having become a symbol of hope and defiance, is now more than just the Mockingjay. She is a leader, a fighter, and a symbol of sacrifice. Yet as the final assault on the capital approaches, Katniss is filled with uncertainty and doubt, unsure of what victory will truly mean. The emotional toll on Katniss has been immense, and as she faces the prospect of bringing down the capital once and for all, she is confronted by the overwhelming question, what will it cost? Katniss has lost so much, her family, her district, her innocence, and now she must come to terms with the possibility that even the end of the capital's reign may not bring the peace she so desperately craves. Throughout her journey, she has learned that survival often comes at a great price, and the true cost of freedom is something she is only beginning to understand. As the rebellion's forces storm the capital, Katniss is sent on a mission to eliminate President Snow, the embodiment of the capital's cruelty. But she soon finds that the battle is not just about taking down Snow, it's about confronting the very system that has shaped Panem's society for generations. The capital may have been overthrown, but its legacy lingers. The capital's manipulation has infected every corner of Panem, and even as Katniss leads the charge against its final stronghold, she is forced to confront the darker side of rebellion itself. Is this really a fight for freedom, or is it simply a cycle of violence, one tyrant replaced by another? Katniss's internal conflict deepens as she is forced to make choices that will determine the future of Panem. The capital is crumbling, but Katniss realizes that the revolution has its own flaws. The rebellion, for all its righteous fury, has used the same tools of manipulation and propaganda that the Capitol did. Katniss's role in this battle is not just about survival, it is about deciding what kind of world she wants to help create. She cannot afford to simply be a pawn in the war. She must take control of her own narrative, shaping her future in a world that has been forever changed by violence. As Katniss prepares for the final confrontation with President Snow, she is confronted by a harsh truth: her own complicity in the war. Katniss, like the rebellion she now leads, has been shaped by the Capitol's cruelty. She has been used, manipulated, and forced into a role that has never been hers to define. Even now, as she is sent on a mission to eliminate Snow, she is aware of the fact that her actions are as much a part of the cycle of violence as Snow's were. The Capitol has taught her that the only way to win is through control of the narrative, control of the people, and control of the future. And now, she is being asked to control her own fate. One of the most difficult decisions Katniss faces is whether to kill President Snow or to let him live. The Capitol's reign of terror is over, but the question remains: what kind of justice will prevail in this new world? Will they continue the cycle of violence by executing Snow, or will they break free from the Capitol's legacy and build a better future? Katniss knows that Snow's death will not bring back the people she has lost: her family, her friends, the millions of victims of the Capitol's oppression. It will not undo the damage caused by the games or the rebellion. And yet, killing him would serve as a final act of vengeance, a symbolic closing of the chapter on the Capitol's tyranny. In the end, Katniss decides that vengeance is not the answer. She chooses a path that represents her belief in breaking the cycle of violence. The decision she makes is a profound one, and it sets the stage for a new chapter in Panem's history. Katniss refuses to be the tool of vengeance. Instead, she chooses to live in a world where the future is not shaped by retribution, but by the possibility of healing and forgiveness. It is a choice that reflects her growth as a character and her understanding of what true freedom means. While the battle against Snow may have ended, the true work of rebuilding Panem is only beginning. Katniss is no longer just a survivor of the games. She is a leader in a new world, one that is still fragile and uncertain. The journey toward peace will not be easy, and Katniss knows that the scars of war will remain. But the fight for a better future, for a Panem where the cycle of violence can finally end, is one that will require the effort of everyone, those who survived and those who are willing to change. Katniss's journey toward healing is far from over. The emotional toll of the revolution has left deep scars on her heart and mind, but she is beginning to understand that healing will take time. It is not a linear process. There will be setbacks, moments of doubt, and difficult decisions ahead. But for the first time in the story, Katniss begins to see a way forward, one where she can rebuild not only her world, but also her own sense of identity. Her relationship with Peeta, once fractured and broken, begins to heal as well. They have both been through the horrors of the games and the rebellion, but their bond is strong. It may never be the same as it once was, but the love between them has endured. They may have been shaped by the war, but together they begin to rebuild their future one step at a time.